Hello, people. We're back after a bit of a break, but we're here to talk about the aftermath of E3 and what's actually happened in the last couple of weeks, and basically everything that's happened since E3 and at E3 as well. So take it away, mate.
Yeah, it's been an interesting few weeks, hasn't it, Early? For once, you've got two conferences that are very, very different from each other. You've got Microsoft showing off a lot of games, but not addressing the elephant in the room at the time.
Yeah,
And then you got Sony, who didn't, I thought, had a weaker showing of games,
yeah,
but struck home with saying, you know what, you can keep your games, the license, do whatever you want with them. So, yeah, I thought it was an interesting E3, but yeah, let's start with Microsoft's conference. What did you think of Microsoft's effort?
I mean, I think Microsoft, because they actually did their conference in the morning, which was evening in the UK,
Yep.
and I actually watched the entire conference live, and I was like, oh, this is turned out to be a fantastic conference, and Sony is somewhat under pressure. I remember sending you a text
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
saying,
you did.
Sony's under pressure now because the
Yeah.
amount of exclusives that Microsoft actually showed, they
Mm.
were fantastic, and some of the games like Dead Rising 3, because
Yeah.
like when I was watching the conference and when Dead Rising 3 came on, and I was like, yeah, please don't let this be an exclusive
Yeah.
because it looked absolutely fantastic. And when they actually announced it as an exclusive, and then they brought out Titanfall as an exclusive,
Yeah.
I was like, they've got a pretty decent lineup of games. And Quantum Break, which they actually revealed
Yeah.
during the Xbox reveal, and they showed a bit more of it, and that looked like a pretty good game as well. But then when we got round to the Sony conference towards the
Mm.
end,
Yeah.
first hour I was like, watching it because I watched that live as well. It's played
Yeah.
pretty late in the UK.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, this is an okay conference. It's not
Yeah, I
bad.
mean, I think what struck me about both the conferences is like I thought Sony's reveal conference was stronger than this conference.
Sure,
I
sure.
thought what they had at the reveal conference, they've pretty much reiterated the same stuff at E3, except this time they've shown the machine,
Yeah.
which I have to admit does look a lot better than the Xbox One. But
Yeah.
that's my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
Yeah.
the
But the thing
problem with
was,
Sony was they'd shown the games
yeah,
before, so no one was
sure.
really. Microsoft came in and went bam, bam, bam. Here's like three or
Exactly.
four exclusives, and it was just like everyone was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's it. I'm getting a Microsoft Xbox One, and then they never really addressed the issues that everyone was talking about. So it's a bit of a mixture.
Yeah, but the thing with the Sony conference was first hour I was
Yeah,
thinking, yeah, it's okay, it's not bad, but it's not like, anything mind blowing.
yeah,
But the last 15 minutes of the conference,
yeah,
they knocked it out of the park.
yeah,
I mean, they sent the entire console hall, the I was about to say concert hall, like conference hall. They sent it into a frenzy,
yeah,
with their DRM issues, saying like okay, fine, we're not gonna put any restrictions on used games,
yeah,
and you can like buy, sell, lend games just like you do on the PS3 currently,
yeah,
and then the price. When they announced
yeah,
the price, they actually I was like, this is a slam dunk in basketball
yeah,
terms. They
yeah,
won this. They won this hands down. There's no way Microsoft's actually coming back from this, and
yeah.
they came out winners, up head and shoulders above what Microsoft did, and they were the clear winners at E3.
I think everybody would agree with that. I think what they did was they respected their consumer. I think they came out and they made policies that were keeping the gamer in mind. Let's be honest, we're in hard times right now. I don't think everyone can afford £50 game, 60
Sure.
quid game, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, they came out saying, look, yeah, your games are yours to own. Whatever you do with the disc-based copy, you do whatever you want. That's your game to keep. And that's all what gamers really wanted to hear. They could obviously introduce other stuff later on, but at least for the time being, they've not said. I think the biggest problem Microsoft had was they shoved their policies down the gamers' throats,
Yeah,
and gamers were just so vehemently
against him.
against it. It was just they just went out and they just said, no, we're not having this. And there was a massive. Obviously, we've been reading all sorts of blogs, and no, most gamers, even the most ardent Xbox guys, were like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, and they were switching. A lot of them, a lot of my friends who were like, hardcore Xbox 360 players, they were like,
Yeah,
switching over. Like, that's it. I'm not gonna get an Xbox One. I'm gonna get a
yeah.
PS4 now.
Yeah.
So they'd come over to the dark side. As you say.
So I mean, overall, how would you rate Sony's and Microsoft's performance?
Oh, look, I think Sony won hand down.
Yeah.
They won hands down. They were absolutely fantastic during the conference. The last 15 minutes stole the show
Mm.
with their used game policies, and especially
Yeah.
the price,
Yeah.
$100 cheaper. And I think
Yeah.
like they absolutely knocked it out of the park. And if you actually think about it, it's a more powerful machine as well. It's
Yeah,
a
it's
more
got the
powerful
faster
machine.
RAM. It's got the DDR5 RAM. I'd say I'd probably be along the same lines. I'd say Sony did win it, although I think it was a weaker performance in terms of games.
Yeah,
But then I think that was bound to happen.
yeah,
But having said that, I'm not actually worried about Sony bringing out the games. It's Microsoft I'm worried more about.
yeah.
Because Sony, let's be honest, the last 3, 4 years, they've had exclusive after exclusive
After
and
exclusive,
high
absolutely.
quality exclusives. It's been Microsoft who have been shoving down Kinect, to gamers, and gamers have been like, what the hell is this? Why aren't we getting more exclusives from their end? So I'm not worried on that. On
On
that,
that front.
yeah. But yeah, but obviously after that, we had the aftermath on the forums, and then Microsoft doing what they call the Microsoft 180 now.
Yeah, the Xbox 180,
Yeah,
the backtrack,
yeah,
which is like big news now, and like and that's for like come out of E3, the
yeah,
pummeling that they actually had,
yeah,
for them to actually go back on everything that they'd been actually banging on about since the Xbox One reveal,
yeah.
and to actually backtrack on everything, that was major news,
Right.
major news.
Here's the question I want to put to you. Do you think it was the actual consumers that forced them into this position, or was it Sony?
I'll tell you, I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I think I am sounded off on Twitter about this as well.
yeah,
There was a lot of noise on Twitter, like, consumers on social networking, they actually caused this change. I'll tell
yeah,
you what I think caused the change
yeah.
was the pre-orders. The
Yeah, I probably agree
pre-orders
with you there. Yeah,
is what caused the change, and I think they actually just thought, like, we'll swallow the bitter pill, swallow our pride, and make the change now, rather than
yeah,
let this get completely out of control, and
mm,
Sony completely dominates in the first year after launch, and then we make the change, and a lot of the damage would have effectively have been done.
yeah,
And I think the major thing that they did was saying, like, it's not you don't have to check in every 24 hours, and
yeah,
with that, what they've done is that after E3, there was news coming out that the Xbox One at launch is only going to be functional in 21 countries in the world, with abandoning checking in every 24 hours. What they've effectively said that it can be used anywhere now.
yeah.
So I think it's the
See,
pre-orders
I
that
find that
matters.
ludicrous. The whole 24-hour checking stuff.
Yeah,
I just find it
rubbish.
ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
like we all go on holiday. We all take our machines abroad. So I'm supposed to be looking for internet connection every time I want to play a single player game.
Yeah, I know. And there was
How much sense does that make?
Yeah, and there was this whole backlash about how Microsoft has single-handedly abandoned the military,
Mm.
because a lot of people who are actually on
Yeah,
service
yeah, I read
actually
something
yeah,
about that as well.
yeah,
Yeah, you're
yeah,
right. You're completely right. Because yeah, I mean, a lot of servicemen when they go to
yeah,
Iraq, Afghanistan, they have their 360s with them, don't they? So
exactly,
what the
exactly,
hell are
yeah.
they supposed to do? Invent some fiber, uptake and then
And I
start
think
connecting that. That's just yeah.
yeah,
But
and
yeah,
yeah, I think it's been damage limitation, because Don Matrick, if you actually heard him, like when this question was posed to him as to he was like, if you can't be online every 24 hours, if you can't check in online every 24 hours, if you can't have the device connected by the Xbox 360, because
see,
that's
I think
fine.
that was
Yeah, I know, kick in the
incredibly
teeth.
soft. It was just like, what are you guys doing? It's like, I understand that you've got a powerful machine. I understand you're trying to give consumers something that will be revolutionary, and it'll be online. You can do stuff all the time, which is great. And I'm sure from a gaming front, it's great as well. But when you're coming out with comments like this, you're not respecting your consumer. You're just telling them, you know what? If you don't want a machine, go away. We don't want you.
Yeah,
And I
I know.
think that's just absolute arrogance, and I don't think that's the direction they want.
And I think that was a complete kick in the teeth. And I think what they've tried to do is limit the damage that they actually caused. And but now I've got a question for you.
Mm?
If Microsoft had the same use games policies as Sony,
Mm-hmm.
and everything that they've actually backtracked on or done a
Mm-hmm.
180 on,
Mm-hmm.
could Sony have won the E3 conference if both policies were the same? If Microsoft had the same policies that they have in place now?
I think they would have won marginally
Think
just
so?
because of the pricing.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. Because
think
that's a major issue.
I
Yeah, I
think
agree.
is I think pricing right now is a major deal now. It's a huge deal in all honesty. I think when you've got kids out there, who scrape together all their pennies, all their dollars, whatever you want to call it, to go and get a machine, You've got a machine that's going to be £100 cheaper or $100 cheaper here. That, for the first couple of years at least, that's going to be quite substantial.
That is going to be true.
Yeah.
Like we've still got a few months until launch,
hmm
and we've got the Games Developers Conference coming up, and we've got to do you think Sony is going to probably announce a first party exclusive leading up to the launch, or
Yeah, I think it's TGS as well. I think they've got
yeah, yeah,
coming
yeah,
up.
absolutely,
And TGS is sort of their home ground, isn't it? It's Tokyo, so
yeah.
I'm sure they're going to have some Japanese developers working on something. And like I said, I'm not worried about Sony coming out with exclusives. I think they've got a tremendous amount of talent in their first-party studios. Like I said, I was more worried about Microsoft coming out with stuff because the last couple of years, if it wasn't for Halo and Gears of War, they've not really had much in terms of exclusives.
Absolutely right. And the latest Gears of War game, Gears of
Yeah,
War Judgment, hasn't sold all that well.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not sold all that well. The first three, were like a money-making machine for Microsoft. But I think they made a huge mistake with releasing Judgment this year. Because if they hadn't released Judgment this year, they
Mm.
could have possibly had a Gears of War launch title. And
Yeah.
because they've
I
actually
think that was a
brought it out.
mistake. I think the problem they've got again is like they've got a few big series games which they launch, and I think they've oversaturated the market with those as well. You've got literally a Halo coming out every year. You've got obviously Gears coming out every year after three. It doesn't really help, does it? It doesn't help the franchise because
It
you're getting
doesn't.
too much franchise overdose.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And they announced a new Halo game at E3 as well. So don't forget that, the Sony big gun, which everyone was expecting to be at E3,
It's
was,
Uncharted, yeah.
Uncharted. And
And
they
they
haven't
didn't.
announced that yet.
And again, that'll come out. It will come out
It will.
because that series has done so well for Sony that they can easily sit on it. If they've got a E3 next year, they think maybe, well, it's not a great E3 for us. If they even just show Uncharted 4, just a banner saying Uncharted 4, that's it. That's their job done, basically.
Yeah, true, true, true. Okay, one more thing for you that I'm going to throw out.
hmm
What is the effect that GTA 5
Mm.
is going to have on the launch of these consoles? What do you think?
I
Because it's
don't
coming
think
out in
it's.
September.
I don't think it's going to be a huge effect. I think people that are going to get these new consoles are still going to get them. Having said that, I mean, a person like me who's pre-ordered one of the systems already, I'm going to obviously hope that they bring out a next-gen version of the for the game.
Yeah, and they haven't announced that yet, have
They
they?
haven't announced that, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to because you've got a huge installed base for the 360 and the PS3, and being a GTA title, it's going to sell through the roof. It's going to do well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And if you're talking about E3, I think I had a complaint from one of our listeners, like early on, that you just continue to focus on Microsoft and Sony, and you never talk about Nintendo.
Yeah.
So let's change that here today. Nintendo didn't have an E3 conference. They had one of those smaller Nintendo Direct sittings with the developers and the press and stuff. So what do you think about the Wii U? What's going to happen with the Wii U? Because
I think
it's getting pummeled in sales, isn't it?
it is getting pummeled, and I think that again the problem they have is they've come out and they obviously didn't anticipate the next gen consoles coming out so soon.
Yeah.
So the lead that they thought they'd have, they've not really done much in sales, and the problem that they've got is it's pretty much a PS3 and a 360 with slightly more powerful specs.
Yeah.
And the problem that Nintendo's always had is they've not had a lot of cross-party support in
Yeah,
terms
not a
of
lot
like
of third
Electronic
parties, yeah.
Arts. Yeah, they've not had like Electronic Arts, the big companies like Activision bringing out the main AAA titles. Obviously, the first-party stuff is brilliant. They have the Mario's, the Zelda games, and all of that is all very nice. But you can't have just a company relying on their first-party titles.
Yeah, and how long do you think it's going to be before Nintendo actually abandons the Wii U and
I
probably
don't
brings
think
out?
they'll abandon it. I think Nintendo still has a lot of audience out there, and especially kids. Kids will always love Mario. I mean, I loved the first Nintendo stuff. I had the Game Boy, I had the NES, the Super Mario games, and I loved them. But the problem that they've had is, it's just the fact that they can't bring out more developers on.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm, 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 hmm. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like I think buying a Wii U at this point in time is a complete waste of money. So I think the coming 3-4 years is all going to be between the PS4 and the Xbox 180, which
mm,
I like to call it now. And so that guys, that's our wrap up of E3 and the aftermath of E3. and post your comments below, like the video, follow us on Twitter. You'll actually see a how to actually do that on the video and in the description below. So thanks for joining us.